You wake up in the dark, not to an alarm, not to a phone. You wake up because something is crawling across your face. You slap it away, but you already know what it is. A flea, maybe a louse. It does not matter. There are hundreds more in the straw beneath you. This is the year 1340, and this is how every single day begins. The thing most people get wrong about the Middle Ages is that people were simply dirty and did not care. That is not true. They cared. They just had no way to win the war against filth. There were no showers, no running water, no soap on every corner, and the concept of toilet paper would not exist for another 500 years. But people still woke up, still worked, still ate, still loved, and still tried to keep themselves clean with whatever they had. The question is not whether they tried. The question is what trying actually looked like. And the answer will make you grateful for every single thing in your bathroom. Let us start at dawn. Somewhere in the English countryside, in a village of maybe 40 or 50 families, a peasant farmer opens his eyes. The room is dark. The only light comes from the faint glow of embers in the central hearth. The air is thick with smoke because there is no chimney, just a hole in the thatched roof. The smell is a mixture of damp earth, old straw, wood smoke, and the sharp tang of animals. Because in many homes, the livestock sleep on the other side of a thin partition wall. You can hear the ox breathing. You can hear the chickens scratching in the dirt floor. The man's name does not matter. History did not bother to record it. He is one of the 80%, a peasant, a villain bound to the land of his lord. He owns almost nothing. His house has 2 rooms, one for his family, one for his animals. The walls are wattle and daub, a lattice of sticks smeared with a mixture of mud, straw, and animal dung. The roof is thatch. The floor is packed earth. His bed is a wooden frame stuffed with straw that has not been changed in weeks. His wife sleeps beside him. His children, 3 of them, sleep on a mat near the fire. They are all wearing the same clothes they wore yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. The first thing he does when he rises is walk to a wooden basin near the door. There is water in it from the well, fetched the evening before. It is cold. He cups his hands, splashes his face, and rubs his eyes. He scrubs his hands. This is not laziness disguised as hygiene. This is the standard. A medieval etiquette guide called the Les Contenances de Table instructed people to keep their fingers clean and their fingernails well groomed. People knew that clean hands mattered. They simply had no easy way to clean the rest. His teeth are another story. He takes a hazel twig, frays the end with his knife, and scrubs his teeth and gums. There is no toothpaste, no mint, just the bitter taste of bark and the gritty feeling of wood against enamel. Some people use small pieces of wool cloth dipped in salt. It works, barely. By the age of 30, most peasants have lost several teeth. By 40, if they live that long, their mouths are a ruin. His wife is already up. She is stirring the fire back to life, feeding it with dried sticks and a handful of straw. Breakfast is simple. A chunk of dark bread, dense and coarse, made from rye or barley. It is nothing like the bread you know. It is heavy, slightly sour, and sometimes gritty with bits of stone from the mill wheel. She pours him a cup of ale. Not the ale you are imagining. This is thin, cloudy, barely alcoholic. It is brewed at home from malted grain, and every household makes their own. They drink it because it is safer than the water, which comes from the same well that sits 30 feet from the cesspit. And that brings us to the part no one wants to talk about. The toilet. There is no toilet. There is a pit. Behind the house, partially covered by a small wooden hut if the family is fortunate, there is a hole in the ground. A cesspit. The man walks out to it in the gray morning light. He squats over the hole. When he is finished, he reaches for what is available. A handful of straw, maybe dried grass, maybe moss if the season is right, maybe a broad leaf, There is no paper. Paper is one of the most expensive materials in Europe. It is reserved for monks and scribes, for royal documents and prayer books. The idea of using it to wipe yourself would be considered insane. So you use what the earth gives you, and you move on. But the cesspit is not just a toilet. It is a dumping ground. Kitchen scraps, animal bones, broken pottery, anything that cannot be used goes into the pit. In summer, the smell is unbearable. Flies swarm in thick black clouds. The pit attracts rats, dozens of them, and those rats carry fleas, and those fleas carry something that, in just 8 years, will arrive on the shores of England and kill nearly half the population. But in 1340, nobody knows that yet. The rats are just a nuisance. The fleas are just a fact of life. Now imagine the town. If the village cesspit is bad, the medieval town is a nightmare of a different scale. In cities like London or Paris, tens of thousands of people are packed into narrow streets with open drainage channels running down the center. Butchers dump offal and blood into the gutters. Tanners pour chemical waste from their workshops into the rivers. Chamber pots are emptied from upper-story windows with a shouted warning, "Gardez l'eau," watch out for the water, a phrase that will eventually become the English word loo. The streets are ankle-deep in a mixture of mud, human waste, and animal dung. Pigs roam freely, eating the garbage. The smell is so overpowering that wealthy people carry bundles of herbs pressed to their noses. And yet, people try. Town councils pass laws against dumping waste in the streets. They hire men called gong farmers to empty the cesspits at night. These men wade waist-deep into human filth, shoveling it into carts to be dumped outside the city walls. It is one of the worst jobs in human history. They are paid well for it, but they are social outcasts. No one wants to stand near a gong farmer. Here is what makes this story more than just a catalog of disgust. In 1340, Europe is at its peak. The population has never been higher. The fields are full. The towns are growing. Trade is flourishing. A peasant in England might never travel more than 15 miles from his village, but he lives in a world that feels stable, permanent. The harvest comes in. The church bells ring. The Lord collects his dues. Life is hard, but it is predictable. But beneath the surface, the conditions for catastrophe are already in place. The cesspits breed rats. The rats carry fleas. The fleas carry Yersinia pestis. The crowded towns with their open sewers and shared wells are perfect incubators for disease. The very fabric of daily life, the straw bedding, the lack of sanitation, the animals living inches from sleeping children, all of it is a ticking clock, and no one can hear it. Back in the village, the day moves on. The man works his strips of land in the open fields. He plows behind his ox, the heavy clay soil of England clinging to the wooden blade. His wife tends the garden, feeds the chickens, spins wool on a hand spindle. At midday, the church bell rings for sext, and the family gathers for the main meal, pottage, a thick stew of whatever is available. Cabbage, leeks, onions, a handful of dried peas, flavored with parsley and thyme from the garden. It has been simmering over the fire since morning. They eat from wooden bowls with wooden spoons, or simply tear bread and dip it. They wash their hands before they eat. They wash their hands after. This is not optional. This is manners. This is civilization, expressed in the only way they can manage. The afternoon is more work, more plowing, more weeding, more hauling water from the well. The children help. A 7-year-old in 1340 is not a child in the way we understand it. He is a small worker. He scares birds from the fields. He gathers firewood. He carries water. His childhood in the modern sense does not exist. As the sun begins to set, the family returns home. There is a light supper, more bread, a piece of hard cheese, the last of the ale. The fire is stoked, the door is barred, and then comes the part of the day that might surprise you. They do not simply collapse into sleep. The evening is social, neighbors visit, stories are told, songs are sung. A man might repair a tool by firelight. A woman might mend clothing. The children listen to tales of saints and sinners, of kings and monsters. The village is a community in a way that most modern people have never experienced. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone depends on everyone. There is no privacy, but there is also no loneliness. When sleep finally comes, it comes in two parts. The first sleep begins shortly after dark. The family lies down on their straw mattresses, fully clothed or in their undergarments. The fleas begin their work almost immediately. The straw pricks the skin. The room smells of smoke and sweat and animals. After several hours, they wake naturally. This is the watch, the quiet hour between first and second sleep. Some pray, some talk softly, some simply lie in the dark and listen to the wind against the thatch. Then the second sleep takes them until dawn, when the church bells ring for prime, and the whole cycle begins again. In 1340, roughly 75 million people live in Europe. They all wake up like this. They all face the same fleas, the same cesspits, the same coarse bread and thin ale. They all clean their teeth with twigs and wipe themselves with straw. And not a single one of them knows that in 8 short years, a third of them will be dead. The Black Death will arrive in 1348, carried by the very rats that breed in their cesspits, spread by the very fleas that share their beds. It will kill somewhere between 25 and 50 million people. Entire villages will be emptied. Fields will go unharvested. The church bells will stop ringing because there will be no one left to ring them. But in 1340, the bells still ring. The pottage still simmers, the cesspit still stinks, and a man with no name, no legacy, no gravestone splashes cold water on his face, chews a hazel twig, and walks out into the fields to do it all again. He does not know he is living in the last golden age of medieval Europe. He does not know that the world he takes for granted is about to be shattered. He only knows the mud beneath his feet, the ache in his back, and the sound of the church bell calling him to work. 700 years later, you will stand in a hot shower, reach for a roll of toilet paper, and never once think about the man in the straw. But he was real. His life was real. And the distance between his world and yours is not as great as you think. Strip away the plumbing, the electricity, the medicine, and you are him, standing in the cold, scrubbing your face with well water, reaching for a handful of straw, and hoping that today will be a good day.